Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again with another short horror story from the collection titled Wicked Whims, written by various authors. Remember to use the links in the description, show love to them, like, comment, and subscribe. Story 3. Where Black Sails Roam, written by P.D. Vance. You're spoiling them again. Farrah glanced at her sister, still clutching a clear plastic cake knife in her right hand. Hey, I'm his aunt. That's my job, Jaya. Jaya shook her head at her younger sister as a smile wormed its way across her mouth. Sure, her son didn't need this ridiculous party, but her son loved his aunt and he was having a blast. Pizza sauce was smushed into his little face, black hair was sticking straight up, and grass smeared across his jeans. Tomorrow, they'd deal with the sugar fallout, but right now, he was happier than she'd seen him the past few weeks. The death of their elder brother left a sour taste in their mouths, cast a dreary gray over their festivities. Farrah was determined to bat it away for at least one day and give Tristan what he deserved. You don't think this is too much? What? Are you saying I've gone too far? Always, little sister. You're always going too far. But Tristan is happy, and that's all that matters. Maybe it'll take his mind off things. Farrah did go all out. She'd spend more on decorations than her mother would approve, but the home she and her husband shared was completely covered in silly pirate decorations. Tristan's favorite, with more coming in as the day rolled forward. 3 men strolled into the backyard, tools in hand, wearing matching dark gray uniforms with Marable's inflatables scrawled across their backs. In the rear of their massive trucks were 2 gigantic bouncy castles. Mama, look! 2 bouncy houses for my birthday. Aunt Rock got them for me. Yeah, I see them, Bubba. Jaya bent down to her son's level and pulled him into her arms for a hug. He wiggled and squirmed, complaining to be let out. How about you go ask Daddy when they'll finish? He bounded off without another word, sprinting to his father's side. Jay and Farrah lapsed into a comfortable silence, enjoying the sprawling green backyard decorated especially for Tristan. Their grandmother, their graying curls, their father, mother, 2 cousins, and their youngest brother gathered around the outdoor dining table, shaded by an enormous yellow and green polka-dotted umbrella. I wish you could see this. Farrah frowned, lifting her arm up to wrap it around Jaya's shoulder. She wished he was here too. But it didn't change a thing. Their eldest brother died 8 months ago in a brutal home invasion, leaving behind his love of pirates with Jaya's only son. The only clues the cops had were wet boot prints, single feather on the kitchen counter, and the buckets of blood painting the hallway floors. Their brother was a military man. It would take powerful hands to break him. They had no leads, and the cops' interest was waning. But today was his birthday, and he would have happily split gifts, time, and the celebration with his only nephew. He'd love it, Farah agreed, glancing at her sister. She let a heartbreaking smile expand across her lips. But he wouldn't want us to dwell on what happened. He'd want us to enjoy today and give Tristan all his love. I know. I know you know. As a reminder, he made us promise to live our lives and enjoy it. Jaya's husband, Jamie, turned and raised a hand, motioning Jaya over. I guess I'd better see what the holdup is. Moving to stand in the middle of the backyard, Jaya stood next to Jamie, little Tristan, and Farah's husband, Mateo. The group laughed and cheered as the uniformed men returned to the backyard, dragging huge colorful piles behind them. Sauce-faced and beaming, Tristan closed his arms around Jaya's leg to watch as the piles pitched outward and took shape, flopping and flipping as they battled against the wind. Rising from the ground like a phoenix from the ashes, with sails as black as pitch and a massive deck, rose a pirate ship. It fluttered, sails catching the wind in a tumble before the air filling the monstrosity steadied it. When the ship settled, the air shifted, thrashing a second house woefully, but lost against the tall turrets, affixed to the colorful castle set within the bounds of a moat. Auntie Ra, look, it's a pirate ship. Tristan's voice carried across the yard, wrapped in the sweetest honey. A smile was on his face, exposing the teeth missing the center of his mouth. Happily, he released his mother's leg and sprinted to the pirate ship. Without a doubt, Jaya and Jamie would struggle to get him off of it when the party was over. I hate you. 3 hours later, Jaya glared at Farah as Jamie coaxed Tristan off his bouncy ship. Her son was throwing a royal fit, arms flailing and eyes squeezed shut, but no tears. Chuckling under her breath, Farah dried her hands and sauntered across the yard to stand near her nephew. Uh-oh, guess Tristan can't have this extra gift I bought for him. Gift? Yes, but I guess I'll have to keep it for myself. No, I want it, Auntie Ra, please. Rushing the stand, he dashed after Farah, slamming into her legs. He giggled and collapsed, falling on the ground to seal his hands around her ankles. Tickled, Farah stopped and raised her hands. In her fingers was a small rectangular box wrapped in pirate wrapping paper. What's that, Auntie Ra? It's a present. But only big boys get presents. I am a big boy. I want to see. Hey, big boys don't throw tantrums when it's time to cut the cake. I wanted to keep jumping. You can keep jumping later, okay? Right now, we need to open presents and eat more pizza. Farah nodded at the outdoor tables where their family gathered. This private affair was for their family only. A second, much larger party was planned for next week. And the birthday boy has to do that. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, I'll be a big boy and won't throw any tantrums. And I'll apologize, Daddy and Mommy, for throwing a tantrum. Good. Go apologize to your Mommy and Daddy. I'll keep this little box safe until you get back. A few minutes later, Tristan lumbered back over for his first present. Black with a tiny white skull in the center, the pirate eye patch fit across his head perfectly. After Farrah tied it behind his back, he broke into song. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Ready? It's time to cut the cake. Oh, wow! Look at that cake. Farrah's heart stopped as she glanced at the round, three-tiered cake. Scrawled across the bottom was a pirate flag decorated with an intricate skull and crossbones, plastic ship on the top layer, and all manner of fondant pirates. A pirate horde for Tristan's enjoyment. Yet, Farrah couldn't shake the foreboding draw pulling at the base of her stomach when she found the pirate's captain, dressed in leather, the triangular feathered hat on his head, staring at her, wearing a haunting grin. It was crooked, dark, and demented, and as their gaze locked, it spread wider. The world fell away, and she continued to watch, zeroing in on the gentle shifting of his stance. Farrah! What? Her sister stood to her left, waving a hand in front of her face. Are you alright? Yeah, I'm fine. Just zoned out. Obviously. We cut the cake? Yes. Bought a special candle from the shop we saw on 6th Street. She shook it back and forth, pressing the tiny button on the bottom. Unfurling, the candle opened to expose the number 6 spinning on the carousel. Isn't it cute? Jaya smiled and nodded, taking it from her sister to place it atop the 3-tier pirate cake. In silly voices, their family sang the birthday song to Tristan. He sat at the head of the table, a pirate hat gifted from his father sitting on his head. Candlelight brushed his delicate features, bringing attention to the glimmer in his chocolate eyes. Make a wish, Thea whispered, clasping her hands together. Tears slid down her plump cheeks, disappearing under her chin. Closing his eyes, Tristan's mouth mimed the words before he blew the candles out. Cheers erupted through the backyard as they sliced the cake apart and handed out slices. By the time the party was over and the family left, the sun had long since gone to bed behind the clouds of an impending thunderstorm, with the threat of rain dredged a dense fog. It clung to the underside of the dismal, roiling clouds, riding its coattails. Like a flood in the aftermath of a hurricane, the fog devoured all that was before it. Sinking into the dreary mist, homes, cars, lawns, and the dry lake bed behind Farah's house appeared. A surreal silence settled over their lively neighborhood. Joy stopped and the wind stilled. Farah and Mateo stood on the front porch, watching as Jaya, Tristan, and Jamie sauntered to the car. Unworried, Jamie simply drove them down the familiar path to take his family home. Across the way, Farah caught the last tinkerings of the wind chime hanging on the yellow craftsman-style house across the street. Muffled, the clear jangles suffocated as the fog enveloped the home. It invaded all it touched, scaling the walls, clambering across driveways, sinking its claws to the bushes, grass, and flowers. Chilled, she stumbled back into her home, avoiding the taunting haze. Goosebumps flared to life on her arms and legs, sending a tainted thrill up her spine. Recklessly, she slammed the door shut and engaged the locks. "You okay?" Mateo's sentence cut off awkwardly as Farah jerked away from him, shrieking. His hand, once resting on her shoulder, was suspended in the air. Wide-eyed, he glanced between her and his hand. "It's me, love." Sealing her lips together, Farah nodded. He couldn't speak. Not yet. It's fog. You know how it gets out here." He was right. Out where they lived, the fog rolled in routinely, settling over everything like a blanket of fresh snow in the winter. But this was different. Even as she glanced out of the wall of windows lining the back of their home, it festered. You couldn't see the bouncy castles, outdoor tables, or the colorful streamers decorating every inch of their back fence. Nothing was visible. Nothing. We've never had fog like this before. Nonchalant, he shrugged. It was a little fog, thicker than usual, but not a big deal. They'd been together for years, and Farah, from the beginning, worried about any slight change in weather. Softening his expression, Mateo held out his right hand to his wife. "Come here, love." Swallowing harshly, Farah reached out and took Mateo's hand. He enveloped her in his arms, caging her body against his or sealing his lips to hers. Sighing softly, she relaxed, stroking her tongue on his while he walked them backwards. At the base of the staircase, he broke their kiss and lifted her into his arms. "No! Put me down." "You're not getting away from me, Miss Jelani. You're mine tonight." Mateo sprinted to the landing, took a sharp left, and pranced down the hall. Arms wrapped around his neck, Farah basked in his warmth and happiness. Their life, though it wasn't perfect, was better than Farah could have hoped for. "Give me those eyes, Ra." Mateo husked as they neared their bedroom doors. Obediently, her eyes flickered up to meet his. Something scalding plopped to the base of Farah's stomach, and she struggled to keep from looking away. His gaze, intense and filled with longing, made her knees quake and her stomach flutter. Kicking the bedroom doors open, Mateo stepped over the threshold with Ra still clutched in his arms. For a moment, her eyes slipped from his, and over his shoulder, in the distance, a shadow slanted and grew. Dark, humanoid, with an unnerving grin, it sent a barrage of chills down her spine as it expanded to expose broad shoulders, leading to a head topped with an oddly shaped hat. Gasping, Farah slammed her eyes shut and wished it away. When she reopened them, the shape was gone. Only the family photos and abstract art hung on the walls. Babe? You with me? Always. Gently, Mateo lowered Farah on the bed and split her legs apart. Beguilingly, he traced her curves, squeezing her breasts and massaging her thighs. Groaning, she arched her back, closing her arms around his neck to pull him closer. He ground his hips into hers, chuckling as her legs closed around him. Whimpers escaped her lips as they kissed, and her hands restlessly pushed through his hair, gripping the ends. Mateo's cologne washed over Farah, and she sucked his tongue harder, imprisoning him against her. For a moment, he let her win, but he wanted her naked and writhing. Closing his right hand around her throat, Mateo pulled away. Whining, he fought his hold. Please. Smirking, he shook his head and motioned to her shorts. Farah raised her lips, sighing as his hands freed the zip and button before sliding them off. Panties? She mirrored his expression, shrugging her shoulders. Angrily, he pulled away, ripping her shirt from her head and popping her bra open. It thudded to the floor like an anchor, joining the growing clothing collection, along with her shorts, shirt, and his own pants, shirt, and boxers. You've been walking around in those tight shorts with no panties on? Graciously naked and grinning deliciously, Mateo kissed his way from her ankle to her pussy. Warm breath puffed against the inside of her thighs as he worked his way to her clit, slowly increasing the pressure till she gasped. Moaning his name, Farah arched her back and spread her legs further, eager to let his tongue explore her cunt. With practice ease, he tongue-fucked her. Wetness gathered on his chin, pulling as he continued to work her into a frenzy. Shaky fingers sank into his hair, aiming his mouth exactly where she needed it most. Each twirl of his tongue brought a shiver to Farah's spine. She shuddered, working her hips to open his mouth until his right hand slid up the inside of her leg. At her pussy, he took his index and middle finger, thanked him deep. As his fingers curled inside of her, Farrah came. Her eyes rolled back, and her mouth fell open with a silent scream. Releasing her clit from between his lips, Mateo rose over his wife. Determined to watch her orgasm a second time, eye to eye, he forced her flat to the bed. Raising her right leg over his shoulder, Mateo sheathed himself in Farrah with a single thrust. He groaned, driving her fingernails into his back. "Fuck, Ra," he said, dropping his mouth to hers with a searing kiss. He reared back, pulling himself nearly all the way out before thrusting all the way in. So beautiful. They panted together, whispering the words of all as they found release. Silence reigned supreme, choking out the rattling nuances of the neighbors as they fucked. Delirious, Farrah threw her head back and worked her hips, tightening her legs at Mateo's waist. She was going to come. Sweating, Mateo gripped Farrah's hips, centering his thrust exactly where he knew she liked it. Ruthlessly, he fucked her deep. Clenching his jaw, he groaned low as her pussy sucked him in. Hey, eyes on me. As Farrah's eyes focused on his, stairs creaked. The hell was that? What was what? Ra? Downstairs, something heavy slid and fell, thudding mercilessly to the floor. Confused, Mateo glanced at the bedroom door, head tilted. Silently, they sat in bed, frozen in time, waiting for the sound to echo again. Maybe. Quickly, hushed Farrah. His cock, still hard, pressing her folds apart, slid out with a soft pop. Empty, she flopped on the bed, with wide eyes focused on the doors. Hey, look, stay here, babe. I'm gonna go check it out. Painfully, her heart thudded in her chest. What are you gonna do? I don't know, maybe some of the party decorations or the cake fell. But what would knock them over? They were the only ones left in the house. She grabbed his arm as he stood, keeping him near her. And what if someone's breaking in? I'm sure it's nothing, but I'll grab one of the guns just in case. Mateo moved like a shadow, sauntering into their walk-in closet and finding the gun safe in the back. He typed the code and opened it, taking out one of the 45s stashed inside. After inserting the magazine and checking the chamber, he kissed Farrah, disappeared out of the bedroom. Eight minutes crept by at the pace of an hour. Fearfully, Farrah rested at the end of their bed on the ottoman in a pair of sweatpants and a sweatshirt. The soft material was damp under her fingertips and creased from her restless fingers. When she couldn't wait any longer, she took the second 45 and followed Mateo's path out of the bedroom and down the hall. At the base of the stairs, the air soured like curdled buttermilk left too long in the sun. Steadying her breath, Farah clasped the gun in both hands and lowered it to the side, peeking into the living room and attached dining room before continuing down the hall. Seamlessly, she slipped past their teal buffet, 2 art pieces Mateo painted himself, and toward the kitchen. At the end, the world fell away, leaving their partially clean white kitchen on display. An empty punch bowl sat on the white marble island next to an abandoned stack of used paper plates, half-filled clear cups, and an array of cake-covered spatulas. A steady drip from the faucet slapped loudly to the base of the copper sink. Lowering her eyebrows, Farah raised her gaze to the backyard. Fog held the air, but thinner, leaving room for threatening clouds to peek through. The storm was upon them. Thunder pealed, answering the lightning when it cracked the sky like an egg. Bolts reached down from the heavens, striking the ground vengefully. Something black, feathering to the east, rose high in the sky on a pole. Woefully afraid, Farah inched around the island. A trail of wet boot prints led from the sliding doors around the back of the island and toward the basement door to the far right. Boot prints far too large to be your husband's. Holding tight to her firearm, Farah reached across the counter and picked up the phone to call the police. The line clicked and crackled, answering her quiet whispers with static. Hope dimmed, and hands trembling, she sat the phone down and turned to look down the hall. Mateo stood at the end, head cocked to the side, watching her. Gun raised and aiming directly at her, he was singularly focused on her. Tripping over her words, Farah opened her mouth to say his name, but he hushed her with lightning flashed. Horror washed over her features, and she screamed. A giant of a man lorded over Mateo. He wore a rag tied to his head and an unpleasant smile upon his scarred face. It was at least 2 heads taller than her husband. He would be no match for the intruder. Farah, duck! Without question, she dropped to the ground. Shots rang out, and a man grunted behind her. He toppled over her, groaning as blood painted their hardwood floors violently. Lurching to her feet, Farah flung herself out of the kitchen into the dining room. On the floor was Tristan's half-eaten birthday cake, exploded to pieces. The special candle lay off to the side, singing and glittering. What the? A boot slammed into her back, sending her sprawling across the floor. Her head struck to the ground, and she groaned. Curling her hands around her head, Farah sought to keep the room from spinning as her vision blurred.
You're a pretty one. The captain will certainly enjoy the likes of you.
Captain? Next to her, the candle continued to sing. The frail voice joyfully kept up with a happy birthday tune, singing over and over. Your wish is granted, your wish is granted. Happy birthday to you. As it finished the song, the voice morphed and slowed, growing sinister. Sputtering, Farah forced herself to stand, desperately searching for a gun. The cake, resting at her bare feet, curiously missing, bonded pirate ship. Farah? Farah, if you can hear me, run. Just run. Raising her head, Farah locked eyes with her husband, where his eyes should be two gaping holes. Broken bones stretched and broke the skin of his legs. They dragged behind them, useless, as the oversized intruder carried him towards the basement. Mateo, no! But he didn't react. He continued to scream her name, jumbling over the letters and cautioning her to run. As his mouth yawned, opened to say her name again, blood poured from between his teeth. Her stomach turned. Where was his tongue? Like his legs, the bones in his arms jutted out at impossible angles. The right side of his chest caved in, and the left feathered with bruises and cuts. In his wake, blood coated the floor. How was he talking? Snapping open, sliding door flung off its track and shattered into a million pieces. A tormented whistle took to the air, driving all thoughts out of Farah's mind except for one. Run. Dodging the pirates, she thrust herself under the dining table and over the back of the couch. At the threshold of the living room, a hand locked around her ankle, knocking her to the floor, but she didn't go down without a fight. She thrashed wildly, thrusting her fists and legs out to knock her attacker away. Laughing maniacally, the pirate threw himself on top of her and to trap her arms. He glared down at her through blazing green orbs under bright auburn hair and a wide, flat face. This was it. Farah was going to die too.
I've got you now, girlie. Such a pretty thing you are.
Run, Farah. Get out. With a war cry, she rammed her head into his nose. Screeching, he released her and fell back, coddling his face. Free, Farah struggled to her feet, throwing herself to the front door. Heart heavy, she shook one last look down the hall, hoping to see her husband. Instead, she met the steely gaze of another pirate. He wasn't as feverish as the others. In fact, he seemed mildly amused. He stood at the end of the hall, leaning casually against the arched frame with his arms crossed. A triangular hat with a feather tipped in the back rested on his head. Both his dark coat and pants were clean as well as his black boots. Silver glinted from his belt and the buttons on his coat. Why did he look so... Disbelief stole Farah's breath, and she rushed to open the last lock. Yelling, hands above his head, another pirate came for her. He was young, with sandy blonde hair, dark eyes, and a striped shirt with dark pants. Waiting until the last second, Farah flung the door in his face and took off into the lawn. A plea on her lips, she tripped over the bushes and flowers in front yard till she met the pavement. There, she followed the winding trail to the end. The further she got from the house, the thicker the fog became. Her breath shortened and her heart seized. On the blacktop, her bare feet stung. Undeterred, she struck out for the yellow house across the street. In the center of the cul-de-sac, a car careened down the street, nearly running her flat. But as she turned to call for help, it faded into the mist. Confused, she continued forward, rowing despite the danger. More cars passed, headlights brighter than the sun. Voices rang in her ears, laughing, cheering, and screaming. On their backs, the mocking tinkle of the singing candle mixed with her neighbor's wind chime. When a whistle broke the eerie quiet, her foot caught the curb and she fell face first onto the concrete. With a crunch, her nose broke. Whimpering, Farah lay in the dim light, blinking away tears. The whistle echoed, but didn't move, calling to her. She knew it was the man, the one wearing the hat, the one who looked just like the pirate on Tristan's cake. She would not be taken. She would not be killed. She would beat them and whatever sick joke this entire thing was. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe all of this was a sick joke, and when she awoke, Mateo would be snoring at her side, cuddling her against his chest. Placated by this thought, Farah gathered her strength and stood. Pushing forward, she dragged her feet on the winding concrete drive until the house came into view. Her breath left in a rush. Looming under a pregnant sky was her house. The familiar modern design was one of a kind. 2 floors, slanted roof, with the floor-to-ceiling windows lining the entire bottom floor. The second floor pushed away from the first, allowing room for a wraparound balcony. No, how could I have? Farah gripped her hair in her hands, tearing it from the root, and swung around, aiming to run the other way. Every way she turned, the fog led her back to the house. This can't be. On her 5th turn, a hand closed around her neck. Like a cat, she scratched and kicked, aiming for the owner of the arm, but it did no good. His hand was a vice, pinning her completely.
There's nowhere to go, pet. Your wish is granted.
He lifted Farah off the ground by her neck, a familiar tune whistling from his lips as he carried her back into the house.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, the end of our story.